Hello, everybody, and welcome to part two of my reading of Turning of the Bones, my story about a ghost in Madagascar. I hope everybody is doing well during our continued quarantine. If you haven't seen part one of this story, which I recorded last night, April 3rd, Friday night at 9 p.m., so 24 hours ago, um, please watch that first, because the second part of the story is not going to make a whole lot of sense without the first. As always, this and other stories appear in Enantiodromia, collected stories by Mike X Welch, and this book is for sale for the low price of $4.99 on Amazon.com. It contains 5 horror stories, 2 of which I have read here on Facebook Live by the end of this evening. And if you don't want to kill any trees or make people ship things, then it's a 99-cent ebook and you can go buy it, and I encourage you to do so. I'm probably going to continue reading the other stories in this book as the week goes by. So, I'll probably do one story in the middle of the week, or like Tuesday or something, and then another story again on Friday, I think. Um, I'm just trying to work out some technical stuff because one of these stories has a demon in it and his voice needs to be really weird, and I'm not sure if I can pull that off. So, without further ado, as I am wont to say, I will continue with the story of Turning of the Bones. What has happened is a gentleman in Madagascar has fought the French for emancipation from colonization in their country. That was in 1947, where he died and was buried in a mass grave along with his fellow soldiers. Nobody knows where that is except really the French that buried them there, who are long gone. The Malagasy did win their independence by, I believe, 1960. The story picked up in 1967, and I think we've had a little more passage of time as well now, where we pick up the story. He has been called by the sound of someone calling his name to what is essentially his grandson's bedroom. His daughter had a son, and his name is Siori, and that is where we pick up our story. No rhyme intended. More time has passed when I hear my name called. By now, I know it is a simple thing to will myself toward the people speaking my name. I appear in a small home, at the side of a bed with a small child in it. There are toys scattered on the floor near a toy box. It is dark. A sliver of moonlight is peeking through the square window of the room. The boy's mother has just walked out. I think on this and realize that the woman is Mikanto. That would make this child, this boy, my grandchild. The flickering blue of a television in the other room distracts me, so I turn my back to it. The child turns over and he settles deeper into his pillow. After a time, his eyes open and go wide at the sight of me. Dadabe, which means grandfather. Do not be afraid, grandson. What is your name? I ask him, not expecting him to hear me. I'm not afraid, Dadabe. Mama told me about you. I'm Siori. I am 8 years old, he adds proudly with a smile. You can hear me? Yes, Dadabe. You can see me? I ask, incredulous. Yes, Dadabe, because I am asleep, and I'm not afraid, but you do look scary. You have red eyes. At this, I move a little away from the child. How horrible that he should be visited by a cannoli. Mama said that you saved her once when she was a little girl. She knows that you don't hurt the family, at least not on purpose. If I could cry, my tears would flood this entire village. Siori, you are a very brave boy, and a very special boy that you can see me. Thank you, Dadabe. Mama says you were brave to fight the French. I try to be brave like you were. The French. I realized that this boy could save me. He could tell them where to look for my body, if only I could tell them where it was. I'm tired, Dadabe. Mama says I should be asleep, but I don't want this dream to end. Siori, you are a special boy, I repeat. I am going to leave now and try to find the name of the place where my body lies, so that we can tell your mama. Okay, Dadabe, he says sweetly, then closes his eyes and turns again to face the wall. Siori, I say again wistfully, this boy will be my salvation. I could kiss him. I decide to do just that, and cradle his head with one hand, and his torso with the other, and plant a phantom kiss on the side of his forehead. The child twitches in his sleep at my touch, but is then still. Back to your bones, I tell myself. I reappear in the shed. The sun is rising. I move out of the shed to stand under lightening skies. I have never felt such joy in all these years. I move among the workers, but none of them can see me. I drift toward the main house of the farm. It is a large plantation house with 4 massive columns dominating the porch. After waiting on the porch for a bit, I lose patience with the closed door and decide to appear in the kitchen. It works. I am standing among the women who wear the same black livery with white highlights. They are bustling about, preparing a midday meal for the workers. None of them see me or otherwise sense me. I sing, I dance. They have no idea I am there. I explore the house in search of something that will give me the address, a name of the owner, anything to identify this place. Something I can read and pass along to Siori in his dreams. Something he can pass to his mother, my daughter Mikanto, to lead her to my body. Shortly, I come to a study. It has dark wood decor, with leather chairs and a fireplace. The owners of this farm must be wealthy. I spy a massive of all types. Finally, I see some official correspondence with the farm's name. Paterages Possibles. The P's stylized to make one large P. I think back to my French lessons. Peaceful pastures. My thoughts darken for a moment at the irony of the name, but then I recall my mission here, to help Siori in setting me free. Despite it being day and the boy likely no longer at home, probably at school, I will myself back to his bedside. It is a scene of horror. Siori lies in the same position in which I left him, but his sheets are completely soaked with blood. His blood has dripped from his sheets and pillowcases to the floor and has begun to dry there. His mother, my daughter Mikanto, is tearfully screaming in the doorway. I cannot tell if she is blocking the path of her other children or if they are holding her back once again, as with the fire. She cannot see me. Her horror comes from seeing her son. I look down upon poor Siori. There are 3 deep, bloody holes in his face, on his forehead, near his right eye, and just between his nose and lips. Each corresponds to where I placed my left hand last night to plant my kiss on him. There are 3 similar holes in his back where I cradled his body with my right hand. These claws of mine had pierced his head and his body. I draw back in horror and a little bit of self-pity, and shrink to the opposite end of the room from Mikanto's hysterical crying. Mikanto finally articulates a word in her agonized screaming. It is my name. She begins chanting it like an angry mantra. I shrink back further into the dark corner of Siori's room, praying to any god who will listen to hide me. I feel myself become whole. I smell the death in the room. I feel the hard, dirty floor beneath my feet, the rough bricks against my back. Fade, I command myself. Fade. Mikanto looks sharply in the direction of my corner, and confusion flashes across her face. Then she falls forward into the room and lies on the floor. She buries her head in her arms and repeats Siori's name. Her other children hover in the doorway. One is a boy of about 10 or 11, and the other is a girl a year or two younger than him. The boy locks eyes with me, but it's impossible to tell if he sees me or is just averting his gaze from the corpse of his little brother. Neither child is crying. Monster, back to your bones, I tell myself, and I am gone from the room and back into the shed again. I lie flat on my back and try to drift, to dissolve, to simply stop being. All I have ever brought to my family is death and destruction. It would be better if I were simply in hell. Days and nights cycle in flashes above my view, and I find a kind of quiet oblivion for a time. I never cease seeing in this state. There is no way to close my eyes or to dig myself deep underground. I see each day and night that passes, although they mercifully blur into a rhythm that borders on peaceful. They pass so quickly that men and women retrieving tools from the shed, or any other activities they may partake of in here, are merely a flicker of a blur, indecipherable from a leaf blowing in on the winter wind or a lost lemur searching for food. As always, someone speaking my name brings me back. The flashing cycle stops immediately, and I stir as if waking, although I have neither rested nor slept. Siori's perfect, earnest face has haunted me every moment of every passing day. Not only am I unworthy of forgiveness for what I've done, but I would refuse it if it were offered. I long to trouble this world no more. Come to me, grandfather, a young masculine voice carries to my ear. My name is repeated. I vow not to touch anything, and I will myself to the voice. I appear in the same house, the same room in which Siori died. The walls have been painted light blue and the furniture has changed. Gone is the child's small bed. It looks to be a storage room, but I know that it is the same place. In fact, I have appeared huddled in the same corner, although I did not will myself to do so. Grandfather, the young man says with a mixture of awe and confidence. If he fears me, he does not show it. I am here, child, I reply, but he does not appear to hear me, only to see me. I am Mendrika, son of Mikanto and brother to Siori. I am shocked, although it makes no sense for me to be. The young man is at least 20, maybe even in his mid-20s. He was the last thing I saw before leaving here so many years ago, after Siori. But this means that another decade has passed in a blink. I know that you are Cannoli, grandfather, and I do not curse you for what you have done. Let your spirit be at ease. I wish to commune and help you. My anger rises, but not at Mendrika. My self-hatred flares, and I can see from the boy's reaction that my full, true form practically fills the room. From his mind I pull the image of a massive black shape, so tall that its back is bowed against the ceiling. Its eyes are rage red. The arms are held wide. The 3 claws on each hand are long and lethal. The entire silhouette is framed in a sickly green color. As quickly as it fills the room, the illusion shrinks back down into my form, cowering in the corner. Mendrika summons his courage. Your daughter has died, grandfather. I wanted you to know that after many years of cursing you for the death of my brother, at the end, she forgave you. It was very difficult for her. I am stunned and humbled. I have studied the old ways of our people, grandfather, he continued, and I understand, I think I understand, what has happened to you. I know in my heart that you are not evil. I know that you are simply lost. Lost. For the second time in this room, I could fill the world up with my tears. I ask you, as your grandson, Mendrika, and in the name of my brother Siori and our mother, Mikanto, and her mother, Finuana, to guide me to the place where your body lies. My anger and sadness are now mixed with happiness. I can scarcely contain one emotion at the best of times, but this mixture is dizzying. I try to think of how I can tell this boy where I lie. I know that it is hard for you to know, and it is hard for you to stay for long here, he says. He is right. Even as he speaks, I grow tired and distracted. I will summon you again, grandfather. When I do, bring me information so I can set you free. Mandrika wipes the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand, then hangs his head in exhaustion. Bones, I mutter to myself, tired beyond the telling of it. I appear in the shed, and immediately my sight begins to fade, the closest I've ever been to closing my eyes. I am on the dirt floor of the shed, and I don't fight my exhaustion. I give in to it, and my consciousness seems to fade. I am aware, I have sight, but my mind has slowed while the days careen by. I have a vague notion of needing to, somehow, tell Mandrika where I am. I am so very, very tired. I snap to attention at the sound of my name being called. I recognize the voice as Mandrika's. I do not know how much time has passed, and I will myself to him. Grandfather, I know that you are with me. I can both see and feel you. Speak and let me hear your voice. Mandrika's face has filled out since I last beheld him. I speak. I yell. Mandrika gives no indication at all that he can hear me. In fact, I see him shake his head and his hands gesture to stop. I worry that this might happen, grandfather. In this sand, take your claw and draw for me the place where you lie. Draw a map, or... The young man's voice stops as I practically leap across the room to the small box of sand he has placed in front of himself. Despite his earlier bravery, he leans back away from my form. I cannot blame him. The gremlin I have become is horrible to behold. It should be the simplest thing in the world for me to draw the name Pateragus Possibles. It would take a mortal man 1 minute and no energy at all. Would that I could draw a map from here to there, but I have no sense of where here really is, especially in relation to the farm. I manage a very large P, and then find that my strength is sapped. I look to Mandrika with what I hope is a stricken look on my face, and before I know it, I have faded. The young man looks around the room in confusion and even calls my name. While hearing my name sharpens my attention, I find that I cannot manifest a physical form at all. Bones, I utter, and I rest again. Time flies by. I rest with a view of the open shed door. I do my best to count the cycles of day and night. It is difficult, but I land on something close to 340 days when I hear my name again. Immediately I will myself to Mandrika. Grandfather, our time is short, so I will tell you what I know. You drew a P in the sand last year. Your visit to me before that was also a year. It seems to me this will take time and patience on both of our parts, but I am committed. Save your energy and simply draw what you can for me, here in the sand. That means that it has been years since this young man, my grandson, dedicated himself to trying to save me. For me, it has seemed like 3 hours. For him, 3 years. I marvel briefly, then bend to the task at hand while Mandrika watches. I manage to carve A-T into the sand before my strength is sapped. Mandrika smiles at me, and I study his round face with awe and love before fading away. To your bones, I tell myself in relief. This dance carries on for another 10 years. Mandrika's hair is graying slightly at the temples when I finally finish the words. He tells me that he will find this Pateragus Possibles, and that if he calls me again, I should come to him immediately. During the intervening years, I have found peace simply by knowing that my grandson is working so hard to find me and help me. I count exactly 350 day and night cycles when my name is spoken again by Mandrika. His voice seems weak. The timbre is off somehow. I fly to him instantly. Ah, grandfather. A racking cough stops the man for a few moments. Grandfather, I am sick, and I will not last another year. What passes for a heart in my chest sinks with despair. Indeed, the man's hair is thinned and lightened all over, and the wrinkles on his face are deep. He sets the box of sand in front of me. please, give me more if you can. I have been all over the property you directed me to, but I have not found your body yet, and the owners of the farm are losing patience with me. I have enlisted my wife and my oldest son to help in case Mendrika can't continue. This is Regina, my wife, and our son, Siori. He gestures to the regal woman standing behind him, and the young man next to her. The boy, who is nearly a fully grown man, is lean but muscular, and has piercing dark eyes, like his grandmother, my daughter Mikanto. Until I heard his son's name, I had been bent to the task of drawing the word shed in the sand. I look up at them. Regina covers her mouth in fear, but Siori actually steps around his father and starts trying to guess at the word I'm making in the sand. She, Siori says. Shell, shelf, sheep. Father, were there sheep at that farm? Mendrika's face beams with pride. No, my son, it is a mango and passion fruit plantation. Siori's face wrinkles again in concentration. Sheet, shear. Shears? He lifts his head, an idea having bloomed. Shed? I nearly reach for the boy, but immediately think better of it, given the daggers on the ends of my hands. Instead, I channel everything within me to hit the box of sand. I send it across the room, upsetting it so much that the box lands upside down. Sand litters the room. Mendrika and Siori are in awe. They look at each other with cautious joy. Shed? They say in unison. Regina has since withdrawn from the room, no doubt when the sandbox caromed off the wall. I feel myself fading, but I fight to stay. The men have moved their attention from the box and from the ghost in the room and are quizzing each other about the presence of a shed on the farm. I am not able to stay long enough to hear what they decide. Against my will, I find myself again in that shed, tired to the point of complete shutdown. 30 days and nights pass. I am still in the shed when I hear a familiar voice. I recognize it as Siori's. Soon, his frame fills the open doorway. He is flanked by two older men, both rough-looking and sweaty. Nobody likes to go here, one says. It's always cold. I tried to bring a girl here once. She said the hairs on the back of her neck were standing up. I kissed her there, but she told me to take her someplace else, different, or it was off, the other says. I see Siori smile. Is this it, grandfather? He mutters under his breath. I gather all of my strength and reach for one of the tools, a pair of pruning shears, and then cause them to fall, blade first, into the soil of the shed floor. Siori's mouth drops open in shock, but then his smile returns almost immediately. The two men with him peer over his shoulder, asking variations on the question of what happened. Siori turns and smoothly guides both of the men away, and their voices fade. I am hopeful for Siori's return, but I begin to despair as the days and nights start streaming by again. The shears remain embedded in the dirt, the handles forming a V. 447 days pass. I have fallen into anguish when my attention is seized by the image of Siori standing in the doorframe again. He has said my name. He looks sad as he hunkers down on his haunches to address me. He looks at the wrong wall, but how is he supposed to know where I'm perched? Grandfather, my father died last week. The cancer finally caught up with him, and he is gone. Siori pauses, wipes tears from his cheeks, and dabs at his nose with a handkerchief. But I have not forgotten about you. The young man collects himself and stands. I have been in negotiations with the owners of this place to dig here. They are penny-pinching bastards, I can assure you. I have also checked in the library of Antananarivo, and one of the historians there said that there are some vague records of a group of rebels disappearing in this general area. I think it's just a matter of time, and money, before we're able to excavate here. Siori picks up the pruning shears out of the dirt, having to tug on them a bit harder than he expected. He bangs them once against the outside of his boot, and then selects a nail to hang them on. After this, he turns to go, but then turns back and says quietly into the darkness of the shed, I don't expect you'll see him, since we have his body in the family crypt in Anjiro. But if you see my father's spirit, please tell him how much I love him and miss him. He is gone, and I remain in the shed. I am at relative peace, but anger with the property owners licks at my mind. I will myself to the main house of the sprawling plantation. I move slowly to the porch. I am about to put myself inside, but I recall that Siori has just left. If I were to cause mischief so soon after his visit, they might suspect Siori of pulling some sort of hoax. I decide to wait. I sit invisible on the porch. People going in and out of the house hurry by, unsure of why they feel so unsettled near me. I wonder how many times in my life I'd been in the presence of spirits and not known it, just passed it off as a chill or a strange feeling. I've been a ghost for nearly 50 years, twice as long as I was ever a man. My patience evaporates at this thought, and I will myself into the house, directly to the study. There is a portly, frowning man sitting at the desk. He gazes deeply into a large, tan television sitting on a corner of the desk. There is a rectangle with buttons on it in front of him, and his right hand rests on a small, oblong object connected to a thin cord that runs behind this television. He presses buttons on the rectangle with a confused look on his face, shifting his concentration between the screen and the rectangle that he types on. He pauses only long enough to lathe sweat away from his forehead with a meaty index finger. This man wouldn't notice me even if I were visible. I move through the house, willing myself to pass through walls. I am able to do this with ease. If only I had known such skills earlier. If only I had known what my touch would do. No one taught me to be what I am. There was no guide, no set of rules. If I could see other spirits and teach them, I would. I moved to the first floor again. I passed through a communal dining room, where at least 20 of the workers sit and wolf down their afternoon meals. Their sweat drips onto their plates. Most of them scowl when not chewing. There is no conversation, no sense of camaraderie among them. I move back to the second floor of the house. I come upon a bedroom. 2 people are having sex on top of the made bed. They are continually shushing each other in an attempt at silence. They seem oblivious to the squeaks emanating from the coiling and uncoiling mattress springs. I see a pair of dirt-stained overalls on the floor that must belong to one of the workers, the man's. I recognize the woman as one who was working in the kitchen when I visited years ago. Her black dress is hiked up over her midsection, and her arms are raised above her head in ecstasy. The man slows his thrusts as I pass through them. The woman opens her eyes and looks around the room in confusion. They are both distracted by my presence, despite not being able to see me. There is a wedding ring on her finger, but none on his. I keep moving, and their furtive movements resume. I pass through more bedrooms, empty as they should be at this hour, bathrooms both occupied and not. Some residents of the house appear to sense my passing, while others are completely oblivious. I end up back down in the bustling kitchen. At least 2 of the women wear annoyance on their faces, no doubt due to the absence of their fornicating friend. I decide to return to my shed. There's nothing I could do to these people that they're not already doing to themselves in some way or another. Nothing that would make them acquiesce to Siori's requests any more quickly than they're going to anyway. I am very tired again. I know that I can put my trust in my great-grandson. Siori will deliver me. I have waited this long. I can wait a while longer. And that, folks, is the end of the turning of the bones. I hope that everybody has enjoyed it, and once again encourage everybody to stay safe and sane during this quarantine period. Anybody looking at this in the future, this was during the COVID-19 coronavirus quarantine. Again, I hope you've enjoyed it, and please keep yourself safe. Remember to wash your family and keep your hands at least 6 feet apart from each other. Have a good night.